Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. I'm Rob Ellis. He is Derek Gunn. All right, you know what? I had to throw the bat signal up last night when all this craziness went down. And you knew who I was calling when we're talking Sixers. It is the one and only Keith Pompey. You can follow him on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers. Does an awesome job as the beat writer for the Sixers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Keith, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Thanks for having me on.
Keith, our pleasure, man. Man. I'll start with this. Were you as surprised as we were at the way this shook out? Yeah, because I mean, my son walked in. He's like, Harden opted in. I'm like, what? Yeah. So how surprised were you?
Yeah, I was shocked, man. I was shocked. It was funny because I was talking to the sports editor, Gary Petoskey, yesterday, and he was like, man, is there any chance that he's going to opt in? I'm like, nah, man. Nah. And then next thing you know, I was like embarrassed, that he did. Like, I was wrong. But nah, I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought that, he would opt out and try to test the waters. But that goes to tell us that everything crumbled for him. The market just vanished for him.
Now, of course, we also heard the story that he expressed his displeasure with the 76ers in terms of how this was handled. But I'm going to take you to my conspiracy theory, and you tell me what you think. This is just my thought, okay? So he takes less money last year, and I'm thinking somewhere along the line, Morey or a contingent of people told him, hey, look, James, take a little less money last year. We get some other pieces. We can make this product better. We think we can go deeper into the playoffs. Lo and behold, it did not happen. But if you do this for us, we'll take care of you in the summer of 2023. And then all of a sudden, they pulled the rug from under him. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about my theory? Rob kind of snickered when I told him this earlier. What do you think?
I mean, I do think that he probably thought he was going to get more money. I mean, I thought he felt like he was going to take one for the team. I mean, let's granted, the guys that he did bring in here were two of his former teammates, two of his good friends, right? But I do feel that way. But I also think that, it was one of those things where, I mean, and I think this is bigger than Daryl Morey. I think it's like ownership where they're looking at this and they're like, yo, this isn't really going well. Like, you're invested in paying this guy all this money. What this can do is it could destroy us in the long term and short term too. So, you feel like he had more value when he first came here and he lost a lot of value. And because let's face it, you guys, no one thought that this guy is no longer worth a max salary or close to a max salary. Right. And I think the Sixers pulled the wool under him. But I will say this, Rob, I do think that when he took that $15 million pay cut, if it was said to him or not, he was expecting to make that money back this year. He was expecting.
See, Rob?
I hear you. Look, Keith, if and that therein lies was there an expectation? Was he told that? I don't know, but this is a departure, Keith, because we know how close he and Morey are, excuse me. And for it to shake out this way is the most surprising part. Here's why I give Morey credit. And you're saying maybe it's above him, maybe it's Harris, whatever. I give the organization credit for drawing a line somewhere. And sort of reading, this is what I think Howie Roseman does really well. He reads the field of what else is happening. And they knew that there wasn't a Houston option after some of their young guys were kind of chirping about it. Yeah. The Phoenix went away with Beal, right? So when that dried up, it was like, all right, man, we'll call your bluff. Like, where are you going? I think that, and then Harden probably got pissed off at that.
Exactly. And not only that, the one thing I will say about, from what I hear about Josh Harris, the managing partner of the Sixers, he does not like to be embarrassed. And if you turn on any talk radio show, any podcast, any show, any television show, all everyone was talking about was, are they really going to get that guy money? And Daryl Morey, man, he's putting his relationship above the franchise. And I felt like they stepped in and was like, nah, it's not going to happen. But yeah, you're right. You read the room. You realize that he's not going to get any money. I think the worst thing was that happened to James Harden, and I read something where James is disappointed. Everything changed when Jalen Green came on when he was on Paul George's podcast, and he said he didn't say anything, but Paul George was like, "Do you want to play with him? He's going to be a ball hog." and Jalen Green's silence basically spoke volumes. And then after that, that gave Ime Udoka the power to say, well, you know, maybe we might want to go elsewhere. Yeah. And at that point, James was done. He was literally done.
Wow.
So we heard that, you know, Phoenix had some interest, and I believe Cleveland was the other team that was rumored to have some interest in him. But all of a sudden, their interest waned real quick. Do you think the Sixers severely priced Harden out of the market in terms of what they wanted back for him?
For Harden, you know what? I think it's one of those things with Harden is it's like the thing. That's a tough thing because when you have a guy like that who has that resume, you do want to get a lot for him. But when you look at him, at least here with the Sixers, he quit on them in the final games. He quit on them in Game 6 against the Miami Heat. And you could say he quit on the Sixers in Game 7. He has a tendency of struggling in the playoffs. So the Sixers are trying to get value because they have to get value because they were so invested in him, and anything else is going to mess them up. But at the same time, opposing teams are like, nah, bro, we watched those games too. like we watched them too. So that was the hard part, you know, for them. That's the hard part.
So Keith, after saying all this, I think I know the answer, but I got to ask anyway. Is there any chance that they can't get a deal done and he's a Sixer into the season, or is he absolutely gone?
You know, I think there's a slim chance, but I do think that he'll be gone. I think, like, see, the thing is, like, and it's funny, you talk to people, and some people are like, hey, look, it might be in their best interest to hurry up and get a deal done ASAP, right? With the Clippers, where you can get Marcus Morris, you know, a couple other players.
Maybe Norman Powell.
Yeah, Norman Powell and Terrence Mann, although the Clippers don't want to get rid of any of their young
I wouldn't hate that deal, by the way, Keith.
You said you don't?
I wouldn't hate that deal at all. I'd be good. I like that, actually.
Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of people are saying that that's a pretty good deal, right? The problem is, well, then you can still go out there and you don't have to get a star quality point guard or anything like that, but you'll have a nice quality deep team, defensive minded team. But the thing is, other folks are from the avenue are saying, look, if I'm Daryl Morey, I know that everybody's pointing at me. You know, wait to see what happens after free agency. Do whatever. Somebody's going to need someone. They're not going to be able to get the star that they thought they were going to get. And they may be able to give you more for James Harden, or you can get a third team involved. So those are the things that can happen. But, you know, it's a tough one, man, because let's face it, you know, if Daryl Morey makes the wrong move, that could be him, because they didn't have any draft picks this year, partly because of James. You know, he came in there, he's making $12 million a year, and, you know, they're supposed to get out of the second round. They haven't done that. You know, you no longer have Doc Rivers here to say, well, he didn't make the adjustments. So now everyone's looking at the general or the president of basketball ops to see what he can do. So I think Daryl has to take his time and make the right decision for his franchise.
I think if what we heard is true, that Harden has expressed his displeasure directly to the Sixers decision makers, I think it's almost now impossible to bring him back without there being some kind of controversy and tension involved. Can they get value back for him? Because, you know, one of the teams heard the clip. I'm not giving up Kawhi Leonard for James Harden. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I don't know what other teams are in the mix who are inquiring right now. We heard the Knicks, I believe it was. I don't know if I want Julius Randle here to begin with. You know, that was the name we heard. You know, I don't care who you couple Julius Randle with. I don't know if I want him in Philadelphia, period. So can this team get back value for a James Harden? It may not be a marquee player.
I mean, I don't see it from those teams. Like, you know, people also talking about the Miami Heat. Like, if you're the Miami Heat, are you going to give up Tyler Hero and Bam out of value for James Harden? I don't see it. So, I mean, that's where, you know, you may have to take your time, or like that package that the Clippers say, if you feel like you can't get anything else, you might want to take it. The problem with James is, and you brought up a good point, D-Gun, like the problem with James is when he wanted out of Houston, he made a way to get out of Houston.
Yes,
to the thing where he crashed and burned that place, right? And then the same thing with Brooklyn. Like a lot of folks want to say, I mean, think about it. Ben Simmons wanted out. Ben Simmons wanted out. But they didn't make that move until James decided he wanted out of Brooklyn. You know what I mean? So yeah, you might mess around and get pennies on a dollar if you stick around and wait around for the season to happen, because James is going to make it miserable for the Sixers, or he could.
Right, and that you're right. That is always the fear there. So my understanding, Keith, and correct me if I'm wrong, whoever he gets traded to, he can't sign an extension with, right? So this is, he's really gambling on himself again, at an older age here. This is he's in a tough spot, Harden.
Yeah, but I also think that he had no other decision to make and any possibility, because think about it. This is how you get somebody to opt into a contract. What you say to him is, all right, you're going to opt out, but we ain't paying you more than what you thought you were going to. I mean, we ain't going to pay you more than what you're making now. So you're like, whoa. So well, let me opt in, hopefully go somewhere, try to ball out, and then maybe I'll make more money, because here, like, it's a way to make a person not feel wanted, and that's by lowballing them, especially after that person said, I took $15 million less for you a year before. So yes, he is gambling, but at the same time, I feel like he really had no other option. I mean, think about it. You're making 35.6 and you opt out to make 30. I mean, so you know what I mean? It's kind of really hurting you, Right.
Let me jump on what Rob just said about, okay, you can't get an extension, but can you negotiate for more money within the structure of what you already have?
Man, I think he's done with that. Nah, he's done because he opted into the contract. Right. He's done. Yeah. I mean, now if he would have opted out, he could have, but yeah, he's done. And that's the thing, like, someone should have like informed him of all this when he did what he did last year. Like, I guess, you think everything is going to be great, but then you need somebody in your camp to like, well, look, this is great, but what if? Are you sure about this? What if? Yeah,
there always has to be the worst case scenario, presented in some ways. Do you think it's kind of a 2-horse race, Keith? We're hearing Clippers, we're hearing Knicks. I think from what we're hearing, he'd like to go to, I know he's got LA ties. He grew up in LA, obviously, but he has the home in Houston. Anybody else do you think could be in play for this?
I mean, I'm hearing Miami. Well, I've heard reports about Miami, but I'll say this, like, the Knicks possibly could get involved. But when I reached out to people last night around the league and a couple of sources, and they said, nah, the Knicks aren't involved. The Knicks, like, because, right now something could happen, but at the same time, when you look at Tom Thibodeau, he is not a Tom Thibodeau type of player at all. And then you look at Tom Thibodeau is getting all these Villanova guys. That ain't working. Like Brunson and James Harden, I don't think that's a good backcourt at all, right? So, maybe teams could get involved or what have you later on, but I don't see the Knicks. Like, I think right now it's the Clippers. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, some people are getting stuff out there, naming other teams to make the Clippers hurry up and like, do something, because the Clippers act like they're in no rush to do anything. So, you know what I mean? Because I just never – I mean, it wasn't a good fit to me, like James Harden going to New York.
So Keith, whatever the Sixers decide to do and whoever they do it with, I don't want draft picks. I don't want protected. I don't want unprotected. I want somebody that can come in here and help me elevate this game now, because as you look down the road, if the franchise Joel Embiid looks around and see the products work, he could be jettisoned out here next year. I mean, I don't even want to hear the word draft picks. I want pieces surrounding my franchise player. Would you agree?
I agree 100%. And think about this. So of all the elite teams, and we get it, Golden State, they have a core. They had a core for a while. When LeBron was in Miami, they had a core, and they would get fringe guys.
Yep.
Since Joel Embiid has been here, for the most part, they've always been trying to get a third star to play with them. Always, right? Always. And it's like an annual thing. It's like you're starting over from scratch. All this to lose in the second round and find out that person isn't the guy you thought he was going to be after they made a max or close to a max salary. So if I'm the 76ers, I'm like really concerned right now because, like you said, right now Joel Embiid got MVP, but Nikola Jokic got the Finals MVP and won a championship. Joel Embiid, he looks at those guys as the guys he's competing with. He compares himself to Nikola Jokic and the Greek Freak. And both of those guys are two-time MVPs, and they both won NBA championships. So it's going to come a point in time when Joel's like, yo, I need to go somewhere to get myself a title.
Yeah, I feel like we're about a year away from that, Keith. I really do. And now, as much as I think some people are happy to see Harden out the door, it's like there's so much uncertainty. I mean, right now you're sitting here and it's Embiid and Maxey, and it's kind of like, all right. I mean, Tobias is still here. PJ's still here, but what does this look like here ultimately? I mean, are they not? It doesn't look like they're going to go in better, I guess, is what I would say, at least right now as we sit here.
Nah, I mean, especially if the Clippers offers the only offer they have now. Again, we both agree we like that. But do they have that third? Does that give them the third star to elevate them? Who knows? Maybe if Tobias stays, Tobias can get more of the offense and he can show what he can do. Maybe, right? But at the same time, it's one of those things. You're looking at Boston, you're looking at all these other teams making these moves, and you're seeing what the Sixers are doing. It's like they just keep getting rid of people. It's like team can't get right. You know what I mean? It's just like they do a lot of things, but it's not, I don't know. It's just bringing different people in and out. And let's face it, it's an annual thing. Every year we're talking about who's going to be the next guy. And before, when they had Ben Simmons, it was like, are they going to get James Harden? But before that, it was like, are they going to get Paul George? Are they going to get Kawhi? Are they going to get LeBron? It's always someone else. They had Jimmy Butler. They had JJ Redick. I mean, they just keep bringing them in. They had Andre Drummond. You know what I mean? They had Al Horford. It's like each year is somebody new. Now, Drummond was a different thing because he was a backup, but you know what I mean? Each year, there's always a third co-star that they're bringing in here and hoping it's going to work out.
Do you think Tyrese is ready to assume a role as the definitive point guard? You think his game can transition to that?
You know what? I don't think he's a point guard. I mean, and before this morning, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, am I being too hard on him? I mean, I'm pretty sure he had the ball in his hands in high school and maybe playing growing up in middle school, whatever. But I look at that as he was just the best player out there on the team, and he had the ball. I think, and it's not a knock against Tyrese Maxey, but when I look at Tyrese Maxey, I think him being a point guard is basically holding him back a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. I do. And I also think that when you have a point guard for a guy like Joel Embiid, you want it to be a pass first type of guy, a guy that's going to get you better shots, get you better things like that. Whereas I look at Tyrese as more as a scorer, a guy who get out in space and go. So it's not a knock at him, but I just think that Tyrese would benefit for them getting another veteran point guard who can put him in great positions and also put Joel in great spots.
So, Keith, that leads to Tobias Harris. you know, it's certainly a different situation than Harden, but you know, I know he said what he said the other day, the crumble cookie line and all that kind of stuff. Do you see them moving him, or do you see them riding it all the way out and then just regaining some money, moving him at the deadline? What is the most likely scenario here with him?
I think it's flexible. It's flexible. I think right now, like before, we always said we got to see what happens with Harden. I still think is now you see what happens with Harden in regards to if you can move him, if you can't, right? And I think they will move him, but what can you get for him? Like, what can you get for Harden? You know, because, you know, Tobias might be the most, well, right now, Tobias might be the best asset that you have that you're willing to move, including James, just because some people might think James is shot and he's a ball hog, right?
Right.
So Tobias, you know, it's one of those things I think it's still a wait and see. And the thing is, like, the good part, and Sixers fans don't want to hear this, like, if they keep both of them, this season and you run it back, now that's a slim chance, then think about all the cap space you're going to have for next year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then you can go out in free agency and get someone, you know, to go with James and go with Joel and Maxey. But I don't think Sixers fans want to have one of those years in between. Nah.
I wonder if Embiid wants to have one of those years.
Nah.
That's the other problem they would have on their hands.
Do you think Maxey's untouchable?
I think he's touchable for the right price. Like, if you said to me, hey, I'm about to give you and it won't happen, I'm gonna give you Devin Booker, or I want why, you know, Maxey is out. Like, you know what I mean? Like if that's that type of package where you got to package him in, like him and Tobias to get a Devin Booker or someone else. Yeah, Maxey is out. Yeah.
Wow. What? Just your gut, Keith. Is it a minimal return for Harden, or is it something that you're getting players that are legitimately going to help you and be impactful? Just your gut.
I think you can get some players that's going to help you to be impactful.
Okay.
But you know, I think you may want to wait a little while before you can get an A-list player. I don't know if you're going to get an A-list player at this particular point. Like, I think you'll get guys who, you know, like a Norman Powell, good player, really good player, a guy who knows Nick Nurse, you know, this and that, has success under him, you know, and you get other players with him. However, I just don't think that if you make this trade today, who knows, they could, but I don't think that you'll get that A-list type of player that they think it can be a star in this league. They'll be very good players and will boost the depth of the team. But I don't know if you make that move real quick, fast, in a hurry, that you're going to get that type of player that they think that they can get in return.
Last one for me, Keith. Derek and I talked about this earlier. You know, I'd be curious what your insights. It seems like James may have played a part in Doc being out of here. Now he's walking. It's kind of a weird situation, isn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, right? When you think of that. Yeah, it is. It really is. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of stuff changed when they realized that when Jalen Green said what he said, and then Houston started looking into stuff, you know, more closely. And I think that changed. But yeah, it's kind of weird. But see, part of the problem with James is that he also said when he got after Doc left that he's expected to opt out and he's looking for a place to give him freedom. Yeah. Well, you can't get freedom here. Yeah. I mean, you know, Joel Embiid is the MVP. He's a 2-time scoring champion. It's going to be hard for you to get that type of freedom here, you know, in Philly.
Yeah. Well said. All right, Keith, listen, man, thank you. First of all, appreciate you giving us a couple minutes. And I tell everybody, follow Keith on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers, and of course, Inquirer.com as well. Keith, thanks, man. I'm sure there's never a loss for – they may not win deep into the playoffs, but there is always drama, man, with this team.
I know it's crazy, right? It's crazy. Then you wonder why my beard's so great.
All right. Enjoy your holiday weekend, man.
Yeah.
All right, same to y'all. Peace.
All right, Keith. Take care, man. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Hey, just so you know, while we were discussing, next Wednesday we will have Lane Johnson on. Yes. Lane just recently hiked Yosemite with John Runyon Jr., who plays for the Packers, and I believe Jordan Mailata's getting married this weekend.
Nice.
If I'm not mistaken, so he's at Mailata's wedding. So yeah, we'll have him on. He said next Wednesday's good for him, which is perfect since we get a little extended time off.
Awesome, man. Awesome. All right, good. All right. So wait, do we have Marcus? I'm sorry. I'm seeing the text here. Do we have him?
No, we're efforting him now.
Okay.
I forgot to tell Tone what time Marcus was available. So Tone is taking care of it right now.
Okay. All right. Here's what we'll do. We'll get a timeout in here. We will good stuff from Keith. So that's awesome. Lane Johnson next Wednesday. So set the calendars, friends. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Phillies. We'll talk a little potentially some Jalen Hurts with Marcus Hayes as well. We'll get into our NFL segment today. Our greatest series continues, and it's the Browns today, the greatest who have ever played for the Cleveland Browns. So we'll do
real
that.
Quick, speaking of which, did you see what I sent you? Susie Colbert's out. Steve Young is out.
Jeez. It's a bloodletting. Yeah, it is at ESPN. It is crazy. Yeah, I think what you're going to see, like just for example, with Susie Colbert and Steve Young, they're going to stretch people more thin. In other words, they're going to just have less people maybe on site at their Monday games and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's just going to be more and more of that kind of stuff. And I don't think they're done yet either. They said upwards of 20 on air, and I don't know how many we're at, but yeah, Susie Colbert was there
27. We're only at like 7 or 8.
She was there 27 years, Derek.
I know. Okay, now I'm seeing a front office sports says ESPN is unlikely to renew Vince Carter's contract in September. Woo. The 8-time NBA All-Star joined the network just 3 years ago, so he could be out also.
I didn't see him. He didn't do a ton for them, Vince Carter. I didn't see him.
I saw him on something yesterday.
Okay.
He was on an NBA show yesterday, but so we may not, there's some of them whose contracts may stagger a little bit or might be a little bit elongated. We may not even hear about today.
Yeah, right. No, you're right. Yeah, it's wow. Look, man, at the end of the day, there are people losing their jobs, and that's sad. That's sad. All right, let's Sil says it could drag out till January.
Okay.
So we'll see. All right, let's get a timeout here, and we'll come back and we will continue with the Phillies, and we'll talk to Marcus Hayes as well. That's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We're Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk Pro Action Restoration. Pro Action Restoration is the place that you reach out to if you have a business, you have a home, you have a property you own that goes through the pain, the inconvenience of water, fire, smoke damage, mold remediation. Pro Action Restoration's on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. I know I went through it. I reached out to them on a Saturday. They came over to my parents' place and they cleaned up a water issue. Great price, great people. It was an awesome experience. They are licensed, bonded, fully insured. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades. Pro Action Restoration will work in conjunction with your insurance company. So that's key also. Again, it could be water, it could be fire, it could be smoke, it could be mold damage. You name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's Proaction.